In this video, I'm going to discuss how to price your services as a freelancer. When you're transitioning to being self-employed, there are things you need to do before you go and find your first client. And by this point, it's assumed that you've already decided what your service is. You've mapped out your talents, your skills, you've figured out what you're going to offer as a service, who your target client is, and now you need to put a price on it. And pricing is not easy. And it's an ever-evolving thing. You're constantly going to learn more and more about it because it's not an exact science. And you'd think it would be. It's not as simple as, hey, here's the expenses, now let's build in some profit, and here's the price. It's so beyond relative. And the monetary value of something isn't as tangible as you think. It's just not. That's why the price of things changes all the time. What the value that somebody sees in something changes per person, which also makes it difficult. And so yes, you have to rope in the expenses that are involved in producing the deliverable for the client, whatever overhead tools you're using, whatever services, whatever expenses there are to perform the service. You have to rope that in. You got to rope in the time you're going to be putting in and what you want to be earning per hour. And that's, which means that in order to accurately price out projects at a flat rate, you need to be very good with tracking your time, and you need to have a ton of data on how long it takes you to do each task in order to be able to come up with a flat rate that makes sense, that builds in profit, that covers your time at an hourly rate that you want. But I'm going to get more into that in the next video regarding tracking your time. In this video, I'm going to focus on where do you start. You're a brand new freelancer, or you've been doing it but for a while but you've been struggling, and you're still kind of at the beginning trying to figure out how to get momentum. The first step is to decide your hourly rate. You need to just decide an hourly rate, or at least to start, because that's going to change and that's going to increase over time. Because offering your services through an hourly rate is going to be your best way of doing it when you're just getting started. Because when you're just getting started, you don't have enough data to be able to accurately price projects and price flat rates without taking advantage of, without undercharging. You have to know how long it takes to do every single task in order to accurately create a flat rate. And until you have a ton of experience doing the thing, you're not going to be able to accurately project that. So I recommend starting with hourly so that you know at least your time is covered on a base level. And when I was just getting started, I didn't have a problem convincing clients to pay me hourly, even when I was just getting started. So that shouldn't be an issue. But the question is, how do you determine your hourly rate? First of all, there is no industry rate, so stop Googling it. Stop Googling what's the industry rate of a freelance video editor, of a freelance web developer. Who cares what somebody is saying is an industry rate? I've never charged a rate that matches what the industry rate is for my marketing consulting services. So don't get caught up in that. But here's a formula I use that helps me to determine an hourly rate, at least at a starting level, because when it comes right down to it, you can start exceeding that and building in profit into your hourly rate. But here's just kind of the basic level, is you got to decide how much money do you need per week to cover, because right now you're just freelancing, you don't have employees that you're paying. So really all the money you're earning from a client becomes your personal income after business expenses. So it's how much money do you want it? So right now you're just determining what your personal income is. So you got to determine how much money you need to be earning per week to cover those expenses. But then how many weeks a year do you want to take off, to travel, to relax, to not work? So let's say, like for me, I like taking 6 weeks off per year. I don't want to have to work for 6 weeks, which means I'm only working 46 weeks per year. So I need to earn the money I need to earn in a given year with only 46 weeks of working. Then you ask yourself, how many hours per week do you want to work? For me, I like working 30 hours per week. because it gives me enough time with my family, gives me enough time to have the life balance that I want. And so that's how many hours per week that I want to work. So you got to decide that for yourself. Then you have to decide how many hours per week out of that 30 do you need to devote towards working on your business. So that includes administrative tasks, that includes accounting, that includes networking and talking with prospects. All the activities you do to grow your business where you aren't getting paid for it directly. You're not billing clients for that time. For me, I usually need about 5 hours per week to put towards all that. So then that leaves, so if it's 30 hours per week that I want to work and I'm putting 5 hours a week on my business, and a part of that is producing videos like this, is I'm working on my business, I'm creating content, that can be a part of that. That leaves 25 hours for client work. So like for me, I have 25 hours per week that I devote for client work, which means my hourly rate, what I'm getting per hour, and I have a mix of hourly projects or hourly contracts with flat rate contracts now. I have a lot of things that projects that I have a flat rate for, but essentially I'm still tracking every week 25 hours, and I'm staying accountable to that. And some of those hours I'm getting, 75 per hour. Some of those hours I'm getting much more than that. It just depends on whether I'm working on a flat rate project that has more profit built in or not. But overall, it's important to realize that, hey, if you're only billing clients 25 hours a week, then you can't compare your hourly rate as a freelancer with an hourly wage, because as an hourly wage, you are working 40 hours per week. And so you can't say, oh, all I need is $30 an hour. Not when you're only not when you're only billing 25 hours a week. You got to cover the fact that you're not billing 40 hours a week if you want to have any kind of life balance, because you still need to work on your business and do unbilled time. Then essentially you multiply the money you need per week by 52. Then you multiply the result by 1.5 to compensate for taxes, for savings, and etc. And then you subtract the amount of weeks you want off. So, for me, it'd be 52 minus 6 equals 46. And then you multiply the value by hours per week, billing clients by the weeks you'll be working. And I know you might be struggling to follow all this, and so I'll link you to a blog post that you can check out that has all this written out. And then you divide the result by the original number you came up with when you're compensating for taxes, and that's ultimately your hourly rate. So to kind of simplify it, if you're getting lost with all the calculations, if you're charging 30 an hour, I can just tell you it's too low. I recommend starting with at least 40 an hour. And again, that depends on your skill level. If you're still learning the industry of what you're selling as a service, then you might want to start a little lower, maybe 20 to 30 range, because you're not going to be able to offer as much value to your client because you don't have enough expertise yet. But if you really are an expert in what you're doing and you can do it quickly and efficiently, and you've been studying it and you've been practicing it for a long time, you can easily start at least 40 an hour. And you can scale up to 75 an hour fairly quickly over a matter of months of just getting because the key to being able to scale that rate up is getting clients and then producing results for those clients, and then having a portfolio of results that you can use as leverage to pitch higher and higher hourly rates to future prospects. But having the results is key to being able to pitch higher rates and eventually large scale project packages that are flat rate, because it's your results that ultimately help you to sell. So that's just kind of a quick video on the importance of or how to calculate your hourly rate, and it's just important that you focus on the value you're providing and not so much the time you put in.